Next hour at the White House, President Trump is set to meet with the King of Jordan under the shadow of a new threat. President Trump says that he could withhold aid to Jordan and Egypt if they don't accept the 2 million Palestinians who would be displaced by his plans to develop Gaza. Now, both Jordan and Egypt have soundly rejected the idea of taking them all in. Joining us now is Maya Berry, the executive director of the Arab American Institute. That is a nonprofit membership organization that advocates for the interests of Arab Americans. And also joining us is Bishara Baba, chairman of a group known as Arab Americans for Peace. I want to begin there. The name of your group was Arab Americans for Trump. You changed it after President Trump announced plans to take over Gaza and relocate Palestinians. Why did you change it? Do you no longer support the president?
No. We changed it. After the victory of the president in November, there was no need to continue with the name Arab Americans for Trump. And we were thinking of changing the name. However, when he made the announcement regarding the relocations of Gazans, we wanted to come out with a press release, but we could not do it under Arab Americans for Trump because that would be counterproductive or contradictory to what we intended in our press release. So we changed it to Arab Americans for Peace. All along, we wanted peace in the Middle East. That is why we supported the president and abandoned Harris and President Biden.
Do you stand by that decision, given, as you put out, that the contradictory position of having a name like that with your view of the plans he has for Gaza?
Yes, I do stand by my position. Just keep in mind that the president was able to force Netanyahu to accept a ceasefire in Gaza, something that the Biden in over a 10-month period. So we are grateful that there is a ceasefire in Gaza. And we look forward to the president's second promise of achieving a lasting peace in the Middle East that is satisfactory to all parties.
Of course, Trump has been given some credit for that, but it did happen before he officially took office, we should note. Maya, to get to you, do you believe that this is a serious Trump proposal on Gaza or a negotiating tactic, and does it even matter?
I don't believe it's serious. I'm not sure how it's a negotiating matter. Tactic that would potentially work. What I do think is it's incredibly dangerous, both to the ongoing suffering of the Palestinians in terms of what they've endured, a genocidal policy in Gaza, and dangerous to the United States. I see no way in which us becoming, Pam, one of the things that's interesting is it went from a discussion about soldiers, U.S. soldiers on the ground occupying Gaza, and we're going to buy it, not quite sure who we buy it from, to now we've shifted away from that and we're talking about the Israelis will do this and the Israeli do. In the process, we've normalized conversation of forced transfer of a population, which is a war crime. So we've gone from a democratic administration that enabled the genocide to one that's now talking about the forced displacement of Palestinians, roughly 2.3 million people. That's not viable on the world stage or in terms of U.S. policy.
And just to note on genocide, I know it's a sensitive subject, but the international community has not come to a consensus on that, although there are allegations and it is being looked at through the international court. But, just on the broader view, how damaging is this proposal to U.S. standing in the Arab world?
I think it's exceptionally in terms of the Arab world, in terms of our allies there, when the Trump administration has purported the normalization with Saudi Arabia as a key objective in terms of our European allies. The idea that the United States would float policies like this openly is now also producing in Israel conversations regarding the transfer of Palestinians in a very normalized way. I don't think that enables U.S. policymakers to achieve anything that would resemble what should be our policies.
I want to shift gears to President Trump urging Israel to cancel the ceasefire deal with Hamas and let all hell break out if the hostages are not released by noon on Saturday. Bishara, you were just praising Donald Trump for the role he had in that initial phase. What do you think about that statement? Did this just turn up the heat in the region, or are you in favor of this? What is your viewpoint?
No, I'm not in favor of it, and it does turn up the heat in the region. There is no way under the sun that all hostages are going to be freed by Saturday at noon. The hostage process entails steps by Israel and steps by Hamas. Israel has not fulfilled its promises. For example, it promised to bring in 60,000 housing units into Gaza. And so far, 0 of those 60,000 have come in. So people are living under tents or makeshift tents. And so the president's comment in that regard is not helpful. And it's not realistic at the same time. There is no way you could, all the hostages would be released. Besides, the Palestinians in Gaza have endured, whether you call it a genocide or not, from my perspective, a genocide that killed 46,000 people, injured 120,000. And a threat by a U.S. president is not going to make a dent in that.
Yeah, and of course, that's your personal view. Again, no international consensus on that. Just to follow up with you, though, to both of you quickly, President Trump has argued, look, when it comes to Gaza, it is a destruction zone. You can't live there. It's unlivable given the war that's happened there. And it's as his press secretary said in her own words, evil to keep people there, trying to live there. What do you say to that?
That's why it's credible to discuss it as a genocide. We literally saw the 90,000 tons of explosives dropped on an area, a population forced to move from one area to another. They're not going anywhere. Palestinians are not going to leave Gaza. But that is, how did we get here? That's
Explain
precisely
that, though. Help us, our viewers, understand, and Bashar, for you on that, they're not going to leave their land despite what President Trump has said.
Despite what anyone says.
Tell us why that is so important to them to not do that.
Well, we are so ingrained in Palestine. I'm Palestinian American. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. My father in 1967, when Israel was attacking the West Bank, refused to leave Jerusalem at the time, because he said, we became refugees once in 1948. We will never become refugees again. And if we're going to die, let's die on our land. And that is the view of a majority, vast majority, if not all, of Palestinians right now living under Israeli occupation.
Maya Berry, Bashar Baba, thank you for sharing your perspectives in this ongoing conversation. We appreciate it.